I would be the guy at the wedding where you give them those instructions, and then they're like, "So the first thing I have to say,"
Oh my God.
you're like, "Wait, we just told you."
All right, so we're recording.
Here we go.
And who knows? Well, we never know exactly where we're going to cut the beginning.
We just start.
We just start.
Yeah.
That's the blooper reel, right?
Yeah.
So we have with us, we have a guest tonight, and this is Ryan Elwood, a musician who's been a big part of Justin's and my musical life for quite a long time now.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about it. 8 years?
8 or 9,
Seriously?
probably,
8 or 9,
right?
probably, yeah.
I think it
Oh
was
my gosh, that's
maybe
right.
2016.
Yeah. So I found you through Kelly Bickford,
Yeah.
who you played bass for,
Yeah.
not drums, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever play drums for Kelly?
On her album release,
Oh, okay.
I did.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then, but yeah, when she would play like bar gigs, I would play bass.
Yeah.
Cool, fun.
And Todd Carrasco was on drums.
Okay. Well, anyway, that's
Yeah.
Actually, I think I've told you like why I reached out to you, but we had a drummer who had done some showcases with us. He was the Adrian O band drummer, and you know him. I'm not going to name names. You're looking at me like you know who he is, right? Previous drummer, but okay. I didn't know what that look in your eyes was. But
I thought we came here to talk trash.
Okay.
Yeah.
We never try to throw people we love under the bus.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Anyway, I had to let that drummer go. We had a showcase coming up, and we had a big show of the Adrian O band. We were playing at the Summit, and I looked for a drummer, and I found somebody that wasn't you through a different student of mine who showed up to the one and only rehearsal for the Adrian O band gig. Actually, it was not the Summit; it was a different gig, and we were about to rehearse Back to the Shadows, like the biggest song that we do. And he's like, "Oh, I don't think you sent that one." I was like, "All right then, we're not doing that song." Okay, cool. I'm not going to use it for the showcase, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So that's when I started asking other students for drummer recommendations, and my student Kelly recommended you, and that's where it all began.
Yeah.
And now Ryan has been our showcase drummer since then, and on the rare occasion that we have an Adrian O band gig.
We just did one a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And yeah,
we shut that place down.
we did shut that place down. That
drove
was
that
the
place
very
to the ground.
drove it right out of business.
You go down there now, and it's got 4 lease signs in there.
Yeah.
And it's all our fault.
It's all
Yeah.
basically, yeah.
And you were in the Petty Nicks experience for a long time, and you played for our friend Eric Golden as well. So,
Yeah. Have we done anything else together with you drumming?
Well, you and I did the Half Zen
You
album,
played on
the
the Half
first one.
Zen, the Half Zen album, and played for his album release. So I guess we've done a few more things, but gosh, a lot of gigs.
Well, and recently we did the session with Eric.
Yeah,
And then you and I did a whole weekend of gigs.
right.
That was like all over the place, kind of.
Yeah,
stylistically
right. It was
and-
Christopher Bloom's guitar student recital,
Yeah.
which was fun and inspiring for my showcases. So I'm taking a hint from him, doing more contests and.
Just be like, maybe we shouldn't serve alcohol.
That showcase or that recital was definitely more about hanging out and less about actually playing music.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like.
Everybody play one song, then hang out for 15 minutes. But hey,
I did like the pick in the guitar contest.
That's pretty funny. That's an original idea. Yeah.
You drop the pick down the sound hole, and then you have to like shake the guitar until you get it out. Like,
Yeah.
So they had 3 people doing that to see who could get it out first. Yeah. And there is the air guitar contest. So I'm taking that idea and we're going to do a lip sync contest at the next Performance High Showcase.
You remember when? I think they took them all down off of YouTube anyway, but Jimmy Fallon was doing like those
They took them
lip-syncing.
down?
I can't find them anymore.
Yeah,
But,
that was some fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be a copyright thing, I guess.
Oh, huh.
Yeah, who knows? But as we've established, you are a drummer and a professional drummer at that. which is
It's honest
pretty,
work.
It's honest work.
It's honest work.
Uh,
Ryan was
one
telling
of my
us a story.
favorite
Yeah.
jokes when people will be like, "What do you do for a living?" I'm like, "You call this a living?"
So, well, Adrian was telling you, and I always love to hear this. What got you into music? I mean, you now have a pretty long history of doing it and a pretty impressive resume doing it. What got you into it?
My dad's a drummer.
Oh, okay.
So there were drums around the house a lot, and
I did know that. Yeah. Right.
and he's still playing.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, that's kind of what got me started. So I remember one of the things that got me really excited about music and interested in like how it was made was like right around the time when I started playing drums was when the Beatles anthology came out on ABC.
Right.
And I recorded it like off of the TV onto like a VHS tape. And they did that kind of the same thing that they did with this new Beatles song with two other songs back in the 90s.
Right, I remember that.
Free as a Bird and Real Love.
Free as a Bird, yeah.
And it got me way into the Beatles, but it also just kind of piqued my interest in like, because the whole thing was like how they became a band. Oops.
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Can't take me anywhere.
Did you pregame before you came here?
Funny you should ask.
Yeah.
No, it just got me interested in like how bands formed, how they wrote, how they recorded. And also like then shortly after that, one of my other favorite things just for like maybe inspiration's the wrong word, but like just information was like the VH1 Behind the Music series. I used to watch that religiously. Like even for bands that I didn't even know.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be like whoever they were talking about today. If I didn't know them, I was going to be like, well, I'll
figure
know
it out.
them by the end of the episode.
Cool.
But, you know, and that show had a little bit more of like a predictable arc. Like the band forms, they get their first hit, trouble ensues.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they either reconcile or they're still mad at each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty accurate in my experience. So, I mean, I'm going to keep digging because I don't know the answer to this, which is weird because we have hung out together. So, Beatles got you into it. What started making you want to like, oh, I want to get really good at this and maybe do it like for a living? Or did you have that right away because your dad was a drummer? Because like,
yeah, I would go to gigs with him or rehearsals. I went to a lot of rehearsals with him just to watch him. How he was, it was like big band swing type of stuff.
Yeah.
And so he had charts, and I'd look at the charts and try to follow along. That was a big way I learned how to read music, was just kind of by trying to see like, oh, the thing that I just heard looks like it corresponds with the thing on the page. You know?
Yeah.
And then I started playing with a band that was like a jazz band. It wasn't a full big band, but
like a combo. Yeah.
And I think the first gig I did, I made like $25. But it was like, you know, pay for my gas and like a snack at the gas station or something. And it started to like open the door like, oh, well, if somebody's willing to pay me $25, maybe somebody else would be willing to pay me $30 or $35.
Right. Ooh, and then.
Yeah. So now I'm up. I've made my way up to the 50s right now. I don't want to brag. I don't like talk money in public, but $50 is my going rate.
Yeah, you should be really proud of that. That's something to. We'll bleep that out.
That's just my bar tab, actually. My minimum bar tab that I accept.
That is probably accurate.
You don't have to bleep that out. I'm okay with people knowing that.
Yeah.
I'm making way more than I should. And it's a point of pride for me. Really.
Yeah. I honestly, I learned that lesson a little bit from you. Like, really honestly, you were one of the first people I was around who was just going like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. That's not enough money. Like, you know, and I had just come from a place where, you know, it was like, well, you know, that sucks that's the money, but like, I kind of got to take the gig because it's being offered.
It's a hard balance to strike for sure.
I mean, you can't always do that, but you know,
a lot of times I think you have to put it in perspective with everything else. So like if there's like one poor paying gig, but it also comes with like 30 great paying gigs. So
Right.
you're like, okay, I can do that.
That's
one.
sort of what I meant. Yeah. There's ones.
But then if it's like, well, we only play 4 times a year.
Right.
And it's like, well,
yeah,
can't do it for that.
I just can't, I think it's smart. I mean, I think that's something musicians should be. I think that's one of the reasons money has started getting a little better from what I've seen. I'm not in the, gigging every weekend scene anymore, but like, it seems like it is kind of slowly creeping up. And I think it is because people are just not willing to take I'll do a 4-hour gig for $300 anymore. That's always we've talked about it before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, can I drop a real serious truth here on your podcast?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
that's what we're about.
Yeah.
So anybody who's a musician who's on Facebook has seen these posts where it's like we're still making the same thing we were making 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? And it's kind of like that's because you're only asking for what you made 30, 40 years ago.
Right.
Or you're accepting even if you ask and they say no, like for me that's a line in the sand. If you're like, hey, I can't do this gig for $50, but I can do it for $150 or $250 or whatever your price is for what that job is, and they say no, I can't do it, and you still take the $50 gig, then it's like
that wasn't your line in the sand.
You just lost all your bargaining power.
And you can't go back next time. And I've
Yeah.
argued with people who have booked bands for us where like, hey, if you let them mess around on us one time or go back on a deal one time or, renegotiate without actually negotiate, just tell you like there's a new deal now. If you go along with that, you lose all power to negotiate later because they know they can just change the terms and you're going to put up with it.
Yeah.
I also, this is a total aside, but I was listening to, well, you love comedians. Do you know Jackie Cation?
I don't.
Okay, she's good.
I have to look that up.
She works with Maria Bamford a lot. She opens for Bamford.
Maria
I know she's she's the best. We talked about
voice where she gets all whispery.
yeah, yeah, she's so funny. They've toured a bunch. Anyway, Cation has this bit. It's sort of on topic, but she was basically saying it's this whole bit, but it's basically saying don't say no without a number. Meaning, so rather than just saying no to something, say, I would need this amount and make it an amount you really would be super happy to get. Right. Instead of just saying, no, I don't want to do that. Say, I'd need $300. And then they go, well, we can't pay you $300. And you go, okay, well, then when your budget's higher, let me know because I'd love to do it. But so you're sort of not just saying no, but you're also, best case, you get that dream payday. Worst case, you didn't want to do it anyway. So it's a nice way to let somebody down. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, even though it's in a comedy bit, I was like, we've done that before. I've done that before. I've sometimes quoted outrageous rates for something because I was I don't want to get involved with that at all. Thinking,
and then they say yes.
And then they say yes. And you're like, oh no.
You're like, what did I sign up for?
You got to make sure you make that number high enough.
Yeah.
Now, I too have learned the same thing I've learned from you. I don't know if you remember way back, like right after you played with Adrian O Band for the first time, I asked you and probably Mario, but at least you, if you wanted to like quote join the band. Mm-hmm. And you said, I don't know exactly what you said, but it was something like, I don't exactly join bands, like I get hired to play in bands. And I really respected the way that you communicated that. And like, I don't just like rehearse for free. My rehearsal rate is this much. Sure. And I was like, it was like, you taught me something, like, and me, like, now becoming a paid hired musician, like, I have that background that I can rely on, and I can, like, a good way to communicate. Bijou Barbosa did the same thing, like, really early on, like, one of the first showcases I ever ran. Yeah. I knew Bijou because I'd played with him for some reason, and I asked him if he could do a showcase, and I don't know if I gave him a number, if he asked for the number, and I told him what it was, and he's like, thank you so much for asking me. I would have to turn down gigs that pay this much in order to do that. I would love to do it in the future. If you have a bigger budget, please keep me in mind. Yeah. And it's like, our relationship is so solid. I see him. We love hanging out. I mean, not hanging out together, but like I've taken bass lessons with him, and we love seeing each other when we're on gigs.
Yeah.
But like that, the things that like the way that you and Mario too, and Bijou have communicated with me about money, like kind of ripple out into like through me into the rest of the music scene. Not like I'm some rep of the whole music scene, but you know, I'm teaching students and I'm becoming, you know, someone who's asking for money for playing gigs.
Right.
And so I just want to give you kudos for like the way that you handle that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
So like that whole thing that what you just described is way better. And I don't, because I feel like a lot of the things you learn it's always a process, right? Like you learn what works and what doesn't work. And I remember reading some kind of negotiation book or article or something like that. That was one of the things that this is embarrassing. One of the things that they said in there was, "Don't be the first to bring up money."
Right.
And
right, yeah.
so there would always be these stalemates
Right.
where somebody would be like, "Are you available?" And I'd be like,
Depends.
"Maybe."
Right.
And they'd be like, "How much would it take? How much you how much you got?" You know, like, and then we would just go back and forth, and eventually it'd be like, "Well, I'm pretty sure at this point the gig is gone and past us. Like that was yesterday. We've been negotiating for months, and we can't come to. Nobody will dare say a dollar amount." And yeah, eventually I think I got to that point where it's like it's just better to be upfront and be like, "This is what it takes to make it work." Not only for the time that you put in that night, like getting there at 5 o'clock for a load in and do your sound check at 6 and then play your show at 8 o'clock and go home.
Yeah.
But like putting in the time to learn the songs, learn the arrangements, do a rehearsal or 2 or 3 or whatever is needed, and come to it to where it's not like, you know, at the end of the day, if you were really to like get nerdy about the numbers and be like, well, technically I made like $4 an hour because all the time that I put into all these different aspects of having to make this a good gig, not just for the people who hired me, but for me. Right. And yeah, it's just better to be upfront about that.
It's funny because, you know, when I switched from IT into music, I had a major readjustment of like how many zeros went on numbers. And so my first real work in music was co-founding and co-managing a wedding band called The Fever. And that was when I first realized that you could make money in music. I had no idea that that was a thing that people did.
Yeah.
And, you know, coming from IT where like if you travel for work, like the travel is paid for, your hotel's paid for, everything's like your time is compensated, like every hour you're working is compensated. I'm thinking like, oh my God, we're hiring these musicians that like they have to be on site from 3 p.m. to midnight. Holy shit, that's got to be at least $900, right? And fortunately my co-founder was a musician, and she was like, no, 400 would be generous. But it was so weird to me. Like I had to completely readjust and like just throw out what I thought I knew about what time was worth for people.
Yeah. That is definitely true. There's so much time that is not really accounted for, especially with gigging musician stuff. Which is one thing I absolutely love about you is you're a homework guy. Like you show up
I love that.
Legitimately prepared.
Oh my God, I love that because I am too.
and for whatever reason, just the people that I got around, not talking bad about anybody, but just the people I originally got around when I moved out to Denver and started playing, people weren't as diligently homework guys. I mean, a little bit, but you know, and even some of the like, you know, a couple of the bands had like these really hot players in them. And people would show up clearly not having done, they'd show up to the rehearsal not having looked at anything, and then you'd be like, so is it like a 1-2-5 kind of thing? And you're like, no, not at all. Like, what are you talking?
Yeah.
And you and Mario were some of the first guys I got around. I was like, oh, that's how I'm used to things being, where it's like you show up
Yeah.
knowing your stuff, and there shouldn't be a bunch of like, well, what if we do there? How does it go? Does it do this? Does it do that? It's just like, let's just run it to make sure we're all on the same page. And then like, what else are we doing here? I mean, like lots of bands I was in Florida, like didn't rehearse, like, I mean, they were bar bands, they were just bar dance bands. But when you added material, you would just like, hey, 5 new songs this weekend.
Yeah.
See you guys Friday, and just everybody learn them, and no big deal.
Yeah.
So it was really cool in that sense.
There's so many different ways that musicians can operate together.
Yeah.
Because the Fever, the wedding band that I co-founded,
Yeah.
we were so proud of ourselves for adding 5 new songs every rehearsal. Like, we're real pros. That's what the pros do.
Yeah.
I like that you like to make sure that we are on the same page before we start playing in front of an audience.
Yeah, I feel especially because some of the audiences the 3 of us have been involved with have been bigger audiences, and we're not background music.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a big difference. Like if
Yeah.
That really
background
is.
music, it still needs to be good. I don't like doing background music gigs with people who didn't do their homework.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't like being up on a stage where it's like, oh, you didn't learn that one, did you? I had a gig like that in August. And now, you guys know my reputation for being just cool-headed.
Very level-headed, very calm in all situations.
All situations.
Unflappable.
Unflappable, the first adjective I would apply.
Ryan Unflappable Elwood. That's what everybody...
It says it on my business card.
Yeah.
And I was trying so hard. I'd been like, working on my flappableness.
Mm-hmm.
And this particular bass player, very good, talented bass player, capable bass player, is what I should say. Capable.
Yeah.
Because he had the capability to do it.
Right.
And he just didn't. And that's what pissed me off about that particular gig.
Yeah.
And especially afterward when I was like, okay, well, we made it through that somehow. And no one died, thank God. But at the end of the day, I was like, that was not acceptable level of performance. The thing where for me as like being a freelance musician and being able to kind of pick and choose which gigs I want to take and which ones I don't want to take was like a clue that maybe I don't want to take this gig, was that the defense of it was like, but he's a really good player, which is true. But like another thing that I've always heard from the first time I started playing was like that you're only as good as your last performance. Which I wouldn't take like too literally. Like everybody has a bad night, or where it's not like, well, that was good, but it wasn't my best. But mostly meaning like, if the last gig you played, you didn't prepare for it at all, and you just completely bombed, that's your most recent representation of who you are as a musician.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, if I had been that particular musician that night, I would have been, humiliated, embarrassed for myself for not having put in any time. And I feel like I could be projecting some of my other past experiences onto this one, but my feeling was that because it was like a country gig, which a lot of times musicians who don't play country but then get hired to play country will look at it as being sort of like an easy genre.
Yeah.
Like not a very complicated or sophisticated
Yeah.
type of music. We'll just see like, oh, well, I don't really need to do any prep for this one because what is there to prepare?
Yeah.
But the reality is that there is a lot to prepare in terms of arrangement and kind of just knowing certain licks
Yeah.
or certain stops or whatever.
Stops
whatever
are the big one, yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it was a fun night.
yeah.
So you held it together?
No.
Oh, you didn't.
That's so fun.
For the people who are watching, this is everybody probably.
Yeah.
Don't know me.
Everybody you know
Literally
is watching.
everybody.
Everything I said about me being patient and calm, cool-headed, well, that was sarcastic.
Yeah.
That's not me. Although I am working on it. I'm getting better. Yeah,
Are you?
Yeah.
I think I am.
I mean,
Yeah. So rather than being like, "Oh, what the fuck?" I just say that inside to myself. And then
And then remove yourself from the situation?
yeah.
yeah. And I walk away when they're like, and I just find the nearest bar. That's not good advice either. But
yeah, no.
I don't even think
yeah.
this is going to air. You guys are going to be able to use any of it.
No, this is all good stuff, man. This is all good stuff. It's mostly good stuff. It's 10% of it will work. We'll be fine. I honestly stopped in my early 20s, but I used to be a flip out guy too. I would flip.
You would not think that today, right?
I would not. I've never seen you flip out at all.
I would.
put
I
such
just
a-
never give you the chance.
You take it first.
Beat you to the punch every
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
no,
exactly.
I've probably gone too much to the other side of the spectrum where I really don't want to do that. I legitimately made some people feel very, very bad, like kind of a lot, and later wound up really regretting. Like there was no reason to be beating up on people like that over reasonable human mistakes, because I was even stuff that was like, hey, you just missed something. I would just like, and I'd be literally on stage playing, cataloging what everybody was missing, and then after the show would just be like, like, and it was yeah.
Yeah, again, I think it's like a balance, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it
doesn't have to be like every like minuscule thing, but then if it's also like you didn't do any, you didn't make any effort to learn any of these songs, then it's also just kind of, because like that the point in the middle is usually when it's the most fun, when it's loose enough to where you can like play,
right,
but also not so loose that it's just like, dude, we're not even in that key.
Yeah.
You're not even playing the same song we are.
That's rough. What would you say is your favorite gig you've ever had? Not night, but like favorite group that you've played with. I mean, I know that's hard because you've done so many different genres.
Besides the stuff you do with us.
I was going to say, that's not a hard question at all, because it's anything you guys are involved with.
Oh.
That's how you do it.
That is how you do it.
So I got some gigs for you.
So that's how he stays employed.
Let me get my calendar out. I have it here.
That's so good. Is there one that you like really?
Well, my Sunday night gig that I do at the Appaloosa Grill is really fun, because it is that band only exists to play there.
Right.
We have done one or two things outside of there that people have asked us to do. But the band is the Mixed Apes.
Right.
It's the Mixed Apes. But when you say it fast, it sounds like mixtapes, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I didn't come up with that, but
that's definitely pretty cool.
But yeah, that one's fun because there's no real expectation for it, really. I mean, we add a few new songs every quarter or so just to keep it fresh for ourselves and for the staff, because
that's always
the clientele there is always people who are in for conventions. They're never I mean, there are a few people who are like regulars there, but for the most part it's like we flew in from all parts of the country to be at this. And that's the other fun part of that gig is it just depends on, like, if they're salespeople, then they are down to party. And if if it's an accounting convention, then that place is dead by the time we finish the first song, you know?
Yeah.
But we'd still
Fun.
play and just for ourselves.
So
And
that's your favorite gig.
I like that one a lot. Yeah.
What do you guys think about the showcase songs for this next showcase? Have you taken a look yet? You probably haven't taken a look at.
I perused the list. So every time you send out a list, the first thing I do is because I have every chart basically since 2013, I think, when I got my first iPad.
Uh-huh.
And I went completely iPad charts.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't use paper charts anymore. And what's great about it is it's really easy to find songs that I've played before, even if it's been 6 years or whatever. So the first thing I do when you send that out is just go through and search for every song title. And if I already have it, then I just put it into a set list on the app that I use. And this one I didn't have a whole lot, so I do have some homework to do ahead of our first rehearsal.
I'm glad it's not as big of a showcase as some.
Some of them have been really
Some of them have been
Involved.
the high 30s.
We've done
This is 29.
Yeah.
And I know you've played. Obviously, you've played my song before, and there's
that
a
one I've
couple more.
done.
So,
Yeah.
so you've got 25-ish.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, it's still a lot of songs.
and I believe our first rehearsal is December 2nd, right?
Yes.
Right. So we got
So,
So
we
you'll
know
start
what I'm going to be doing
few
on
weeks.
December
December
1st.
1st. Yep.
yeah.
That's when the questions start coming in from Ryan.
Be like, so we're doing it exactly like the recording,
Yeah.
right?
Was it really?
And Adrian's always like, "Oh, thanks for listening to it ahead of the rehearsal."
Yeah.
You
4 hours
You
ahead.
get your job done.
Yeah.
Dude, one
She's-
time you came to rehearsal and you hadn't ever played Barracuda before and you listened to it in the car before rehearsal and you played it flawlessly.
I
And that-
cheated though because I did have a chart for it. It was like one of the great things about the internet.
Oh.
My general philosophy for charting is that now this is often not the case with showcase songs because and one of the things I love about doing the showcases is that a lot of your students don't necessarily know what the standards are, like things that most cover bands would play. So they just pick their favorite songs. And so a lot of those songs, that might be the only time I will ever play that song.
Sure. Lots of times. Yeah.
Yeah, many times that's been the case. But I always approach it as if I may play it again. And if I do play it again, and if it's one of those, like let's say I'm at a bar and someone's like, "Do you know blah 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 song?" And well, I've got a chart for it, and it looks pretty like I spent some time on it. It might be pretty accurate. Sure, let's do it. Trying to make my charts that detailed, but also not cluttered, because I think there's a difference.
I see some of your charts sometimes over your shoulder, and sometimes they are very, like 3 or 4 lines. You know.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a basic, let's say like Dua Lipa's "Don't Start Now," right?
Right.
The beat doesn't really change. It's more just like when does the beat drop out for a few bars and when does it come back in?
Right. Right.
So I don't need to write pages upon pages of notes for that. But then other songs like Barracuda, actually, that's kind of an involved arrangement.
It
You
really
need
is.
to write it out. My philosophy is also it needs to fit on one page.
Yes.
2, if it's a beast of a song. Any song that's pop, for me anyway, I try to fit on one page, 2 at the most. Anything that, like, if it's like a big band jazz thing, or, I mean, I did a wedding gig this last September, and I kept waiting for them to be like send me things. They only sent me 4 MP3s. And then when I actually like sat down and look at them, each MP3 was like an hour long.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just
Oh,
like we
no.
roll from this song into this song into this song and transitions and everything. And I
Oh no.
like pulled my hair out for a week trying to make sure that I got all the stuff learned.
Ooh.
They were I mean,
Dang.
so like my charts for those were like 8 or 9 pages long. And they were also playing the backing track, so there's no room for error.
Oh my God.
I charted
Can't
out
even imagine.
bar by bar.
Nightmare gig.
It was.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
is
Wow.
that is the combo. Whew. Yeah, I do not like playing the tracks. That's for
I don't
sure.
either.
Yeah.
I do it all the time. I did it earlier today,
yeah.
and I've taught because when it started becoming more popular to do that,
Yeah.
and especially when the technology started making it easier to do that,
Right.
I would question like, what's the purpose? Is this actually enhancing the show? If it is, great, but like so many of the times it would be like, well, we've got a guitar player, so we'll pull the guitar part out of the track. We got a bass player, so we'll pull the bass part out of the track. And by the time we pull everything, it's like a shaker that's left in there.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've never run into anybody who was just like, man, that song would have been a lot better if you had that shaker.
Yeah. Right. I
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what are we really adding? And also, what are we missing by not necessarily making it a free-for-all where there's no rules? It doesn't have to be anarchy.
No.
But it can also be like, if we're feeling it in that moment and we want to double the chorus or we want to lengthen a guitar solo.
Yeah, sure.
Or we need to stretch the intro because you want to welcome the crowd to and thank them for coming out tonight and all this kind of stuff. There are ways to make it more flexible. I've seen people do it, but it's also just like, we have the manpower. We could do it.
It's one of the
ourselves.
things. Yeah. It just keeps you like you said, where it's like, I mean, ideally you always want the arrangement to go right, but it's great not being on tracks that, hey, if the singer doesn't come in, if we're supposed to go 4 bars and the singer just doesn't come in we can just go 8 instead.
Right.
And it's not that didn't sink the ship. We're fine. It doesn't really matter that we went around one more time than we were supposed to. Like, who cares?
Well, the other thing I will say about tracks, for me, well, we did a church gig together recently. So the guide vocal that will tell you like when to go to the chorus first, I've found that I got so reliant on that voice.
Oh, yeah.
That I can't even take the trash out unless I hear the guide vocal tell me to take the trash out.
Yeah. I would bet.
I mean, it's even like when I wake up in the morning, like that click track starts, and it's just like, shower, 2, 3, 4. Okay, good. I'm showering. Brush your teeth, 2, 3. Just I can't even get out of the house
Without a click track.
without a click track and a guide vocal. And sometimes the thing that you can find hard in the mornings is like that. This is a pretty relaxed tempo, but in the morning at 6 in the morning, this feels pretty fast.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, you're trying to like push it up to like, I need to go. I'm almost late. I use a metronome. I use a metronome for everything.
Yeah, we usually do podcasts to a click. So people have listened.
Yeah, this is probably the freest I've been.
It's gonna be really hard to edit.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you usually do for like when you're brushing your teeth? Like 140?
I'm a 90 beats per minute guy.
Oh, you take your time.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to get in and out. Like
No, I keep it. Yeah. No, I'm a slower tempo. Pressure.
I find I chew my food at approximately 123. That's my ideal.
That's pretty fast.
You maybe.
Well, again, I've got a lot of things to do.
Yeah. You may be joking, but I would totally buy if you actually knew that. I would totally be like, yeah, Elwood probably knows about. I know.
It's almost like you've heard those stories about people who have perfect pitch, and like a train will go by and they'll be like, "That's a B flat."
Yeah.
And you're just like, "Wow, what a way to live."
I mean, well, a lot of them are apparently miserable because a lot of music isn't perfect enough and they just can't listen to it because they're,
that would happen with my a cappella group in college. That I was in for 1 year because the leader had perfect pitch, and so we would sing and we would go flat across the song, and her head would go like look on her face like we're flat and I can't fix it. Painful to her.
Yeah. It was funny at soundcheck the other day. None of the monitors were going yet, and you were checking and you were singing a song.
Yeah.
And you were off a step, and then somebody came in but caught that you were a step higher, and then somebody
else just played the original
was
key
playing
and
in the original key, and it immediately gave me like a behind the eye headache. It just like immediately was like, ow, God, it was so bad. I'm not usually that sensitive, but it was just somehow like, whoa, man.
Yeah.
It was like turning my head inside out.
Well, that's a lesson for musicians out there. Like, the closer you are to the key, the worse it's going to sound.
That's true.
That is
like,
true.
Hey, I know we were in C, but I was technically in C sharp. That's pretty.
That's going to be worse.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't really have been closer without being correct. So
Yeah.
So it's mostly right.
So you're welcome.
Yeah, you're mostly right. Mostly right. Yeah, what do we want to talk about? Anything else? Anybody got
I'm feeling like we should land this plane sometime soon.
Let's land it.
We're on a plane.
It's quite the experience.
We green screen all this so it looks like we're in a cockpit.
We're gonna add some background noise.
I never got the my in-flight snack.
We had your in-flight drink at least.
Yeah, you did get that.
Yeah, but
It's gone.
You made me swipe my credit card before.
Do we have any? We had some lessons during this one already. We had a lot of lessons.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn from this stuff.
Any takeaways from the last week or so of stuff we've done?
Yeah, I mean, I would say my takeaway for this week was don't misread the set list, because I got burned real bad twice. Last night we were at Niecy's and just 100% misread the song list and grabbed the wrong guitar.
Oh no!
And
when was that?
Couldn't get back. I couldn't even tell you now which one it was, but there was one in each set where I just 100% like skipped like 2 songs and like.
It's funny because Joaquin did that too.
Yeah.
He started the chain when it was time for Landslide. And I looked at him like, what?
Well, he had it loaded in his. He had it loaded in his charts thing, and he just didn't have charts for Landslide
Because there's no drums
because he's
on
not
that.
playing on those.
Lesson.
Yeah,
I know. I create empty charts.
I have a chart for Landslide.
Right.
Yeah.
It
Which
says
leave
don't
the stage.
play.
Yes, I'm doing that too, because like sometimes
Yeah.
Cody might not make a set list, and I'm relying on my iPad.
yeah, you got to
And
do that.
that's bitten me too. Like I think we're on the next song, but it's because I don't have a chart.
Yeah, I will. The app that I use on my iPad is called Fourscore, and you can create placeholders. And so a lot of times I'll do that for, like, if somebody sends out a set list and it's got all the songs and there are 1 or 2 or 3 songs that there are not actually any drums on, I can at least, if I even don't have a chart for it, I can just put a placeholder in there so that I know, like, when I leave one song and go to the next, it's, and you can title it whatever you want. So, like,
Is it a placeholder function in Foursquare? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
Huh? Yeah, I
And-
gotta get Foursquare.
But more often than not, I have a chart for it, and it just says "Don't play."
Yeah, which is another good tip.
Good
But that
takeaway.
way, you can be the smart drummer. Like, you can be like, one of my favorite roles is to be like, I know some notes and stuff, and people will be like, well, what chord are you going to? You know, and I'll be like, I think it goes to the 5. And they'll be like, it does. How do you know that? And then I can pretend.
I just
of,
hear
like,
it, you know. Yeah, it's just
this
obvious,
is-
right?
Just golden ears, golden ears.
It's this. And it's this.
It's this. Yeah, well, let's land it. We are, we always like to do sponsors. We're, of course, sponsored by Performance High.
Voice and Music Studio.
And do you have any sponsors you'd like to bring to the podcast? I would, again...
Who sent you here with money?
Yeah, exactly.
And it should be a suitcase-sized.
I was about to make a joke, just being like, well, my sponsor is probably not going to be taking my call.
That's not the sponsor.
Not the kind of sponsor we're talking about.
Not the kind of sponsor we're talking
about. No sponsors.
Okay.
I'm my own man.
Ryan's his own man. He's got too much integrity
He
for
doesn't
sponsors.
sell out like we do.
McDonald's approaches me every year. They're like, we want you to be the face. And I said,
keep your money. I can't be bought.
I'm insulted, for one,
Yeah.
that you think I'm the face of McDonald's. And for two, yeah, I can't be bought. You could give me all the free Big Macs. You will give me all the free Big Macs that I could ever desire.
Yeah, but you're not going to be, you can't be bought. You know, like you're not, you know. Yeah, I get it. I love that you're not buying into the whole capitalist, you know, shit show.
No, but people can sign up for my my course on how to become rich in the music industry overnight. All they have to do is go to yourasucker.com. And it's just 4 easy payments of $5.99. Not $5. That's $599. Yeah,
that's pretty good.
That's I mean, I think that's probably the cheapest you're going to find in the industry.
I believe it is. I believe it is.
At least in the Denver area.
That is yourasucker.com.
Mm-hmm.
So head over
I'll
there.
I'll put the link in the description.
I'll put the link
Please
in the
do.
Yeah.
But don't click it because it will infect your computer.
It's going to go
all sorts of
yeah,
stuff.
you don't want to do it. You don't want to do it. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out, and we're going to get out of here. And thanks for coming on, Ryan.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man.
I hope I didn't ruin your podcast.
Oh, we'll edit out the bad parts.
Yeah.
What are you going to air then?
Magic of edit.
Just the ending?
Just
Well, this is
The
it.
beginning and the
Good
ending.
night.
This is the show.
We will see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.